Namaskar. Best black troops in the world. British perceptions in the making of the Sepoy from 1746 to 1805 AD. Black. Author assures us is not a pejorative term but a word used by the British to distinguish native Sepoys from the white troops. He has explored British perceptions of Indian soldiers, which explains his reliance almost exclusively on British sources. This becomes clear from the extensive bibliography appended at the end of the book. He, he, he has chronicled therefore from a dominant conviction in the British of that age that race determined hierarchy within society and between nations. This faith in social Darwinism was used to explain the domination of the white Europeans over the colored non-European peoples. Caste, incidentally, was the basis for recruiting people's voyage into the East India Company service. Classifying Indians into martial and non-martial races reinforced this process when the Crown took over the company's possessions in 1858. Historian Percival Griffiths had noted that the British overran India with Bengal gold and Carnatic infantry. In truth, caste was only emphasized at that time in recruiting to the Bengal army, which incidentally had rebelled during the mutiny. Caste was de-emphasized in the Madras and Bombay armies that, curiously enough, stood firmly by the British in 1857. But caste was the basis for recruitment into the army even in the 18th century, as Philip Mason informs us in his classic A Matter of Honor, which describes the birth and development of the Indian Army. British officers linked to see tall men, and they preferred them to be as fair in complexion as was convenient and to have features of the kind they sometimes called Grecian. The author also informs us of their belief that the Jats and Gurkhas may have been brave, but they were also considered slow-witted and childlike. That explained a preference for northerners, Turks and Arabs, especially from rural areas, but the British were convinced at all times of their racial superiority. The author appreciates that genuine differences did not exist between the Indian and English military cultures, as for instance in having a professional standing army. This was not the Indian tradition, which emphasized instead individual martial skills at the expense of planning, tactics or strategy. The major research question addressed by the author against this backdrop is how did the British perceive Indian soldiers and how did this perception influence the formation of the Sepoy army in the 18th century. Towards this end, a comparison of the Indian and European military system is attempted to examine how the Sepoy army was recruited and organized, disciplined and commanded. More importantly, how were Sepoys employed in combat. An important conclusion reached in that despite their religious sentiments being respected, martial needs being met, training and disciplining improved, Sepoys were not trusted with highly demanding combat duties, particularly leading assaults on fortified places. The prevailing European tactics demanded great steadfastness in troops. Typically, they would advance to within 20 yards of the enemy, receive their fire and then charge with fixed bayonets. Occasional mutinous behavior by Sepoys that has to be quelled with great severity might have reinforced British beliefs in the Sepoys' unreliability. In the Anglo-French War, Battle of Vendée was 1760. The English commander Agincourt used only British troops, leaving the Sepoys behind as spectators. This discrimination, the author suggests might have been occasioned by lack of adequate training, but plain racial prejudice was also operating. This becomes evident from the tenacity and courage displayed by Indian troop sepoys in the hard-fought Battle of Buxar 1764 and Seringpatnam 1799 and Asais 1803. Battle casualties are one way of measuring commitment and dedication in war. At Buxar, which assured the East India Company political supremacy over East India, the Sepoys suffered 205 killed and 414 wounded, compared to 32 Europeans killed and 47 wounded. Despite such sacrifices, the British viewed Sepoys only as good Indian troops. Drill, discipline, and organization definitely improved their military performance, but they were not comparable to European soldiers. The author's overall conclusion is that all the British expected from Sepoys was to function in support of the European troops during major campaigns and keep the countryside in tranquility. But Stephen Cohen, in his seminal book The Indian Army, has noted that the ultimate success of the British was premised on their discovery that first, a few disciplined British troops could defeat large but disorganized Indian armies. Second, Indians were themselves unable to discipline. Written in an essay and graceful style with photographs and maps to illustrate the text, this book is an easy read. It merits the attention of both military historians and lay readers interested in matters military. धन्यवाद. Thank you so much.